Hi, my name is Julia Santa Fe, and I want to talk to you about why being a people pleaser is going to ruin your life. So, if you ever felt the pull of your own perceptions and you want to honor them and you want to start showing up more as a sensitive leader today, here are two steps that you can take. Probably like you, I was a highly sensitive child that was raised in a world that didn't value sensitivity and still doesn't today. So the adults, my parents, will try to undermine my perception and often tell me I was just imagining things, but I wasn't. So what I did is what many sensitive children do. I used my sensitivity to please others, to become likable, to support other people's needs and desires. I smooth out my needs, I smooth out my edges. I became likable and I was easy going. People felt comfortable having me around because I wasn't needy. I was actually there for them. I was there to listen to their needs, and it actually aches, breaks my heart a little bit when I realized how soon in life I became really devoted to pleasing people around me and took on my shoulders the responsibility to be there for them, to the point of not being there for myself. And the thing is, like everybody else, you are trying to learn who you are. And when people like you this way, when people appreciate your kindness, your thoughtfulness, your willingness to listen to their issues, then you identify with that persona and you use it because you get the attention you want that way. It took me years, actually decades, to realize that that kindness and that thoughtfulness of mine was actually fear. It was a response to trauma. It was a way of handling insecurity and fear of not being seen, of not being loved the way I was, of not being understood. So I used my sensitivity to make sure that I will deliver something that people around me could appreciate. And you will think, what is wrong with that? You got the attention, you got the love, and it's good to be kind to other people. Yes, but when you realize that you've been using a lot of your energy to figure out what other people need, and that has left you with very little energy for your own desires, your own realization of who you are, your own dreams, and it has actually affected your choices in relationships, and it has gradually dulled your joy and your stamina, then you realize it wasn't such a great choice after all. I was actually in my early 20s or my late teens when I started realizing that my voice, my critical voice, my opinion actually was useful. And so I started using it accidentally. I remember this incident. I was in college and people were talking about, I don't even know what it was, but they were really missing what I thought was the point of the conversation, and they were getting all anxious and talking over each other's voices. Nobody was really paying attention or listening, so I felt like there was something wrong that needed to be addressed, and I felt it inside me bubbling up, and I wanted to say something. But I was also insecure, and I felt like no, it wasn't going to be understood. Maybe it was going to be more trouble than anything else, but I couldn't help it. It came out of my mouth, and people suddenly reacted to that in a way that first made me uncomfortable because there was this thick silence in the room and that I could feel in my bones, but it was suddenly shifting into recognition. They were looking at me differently. They were actually appreciating my comment because I was bringing truth into the conversation. And so I remember that the way they looked at me, like, we appreciate you not for your kindness right now, but for your honesty and your frankness. and that shifted something within me. Um, and that's when I realized that my sensitivity was not just there to please others, but also to bring truth to conversations and places where people were actually unaware of what was the point, or what was the crucial matter that needed to be addressed. So in retrospect, and I want you to listen to this, in retrospect, I realized how that moment and other moments similar to that rewired my perception of what sensitivity was. Sensitivity wasn't a weakness or something that I had to use only to please other people, to be there for them and to offer that capability of understanding them deeply. My sensitivity was also there as leadership, if I dared to claim it as such. I decided to stop being the easy me. I decided to stop being the people pleaser. And I didn't do it right away in a dramatic kind of change, but I was more in tuned with my own perceptions, and I learned to honor them and to act on them and trust them. Trust my own intuition and act on it had actually opened many doors for me at times where, if it wasn't for my intuition and my sensitivity, I don't think I would have figured out a way. One of those instances where I actually trusted my intuition and my decisions was the abroad decision. I decided to go away from Spain. I decided to go to England. I was training to become an English teacher, so I decided what could be better than going to an English speaking country and teach my native language there. And I was scared. It was a challenging decision. It wasn't all that supported or understood by my family, my parents at the time, but I also remember that I had had enough from living together with them, because they always had these rocky relationship that spilled all over the place, and I was often in the middle of it, and I felt the weight of it and the responsibility to make a difference in their lives. And I had tried in so many different ways, as I believe you may have done the same for people you love as a sensitive person. But then I realized I was getting weaker and weaker. I was getting actually depressed, and I was not getting anywhere with them anyway. They wanted me to hold space for them and to listen, but not that they will actually do anything that I was recommending. So it was too painful, and I was really desperate to feel free. And so for me, that came with my decision to go abroad and become myself, who I wasn't really sure what that was or what that looked like. Going abroad didn't make it right away. I mean, I will lie to you if I would say that it was easy from there on. It wasn't, and the habits run deep. And being a people pleaser for the first part of your life made you relate to people in a certain way, and made you very cautious about how you showed up, how much of you were you willing to show and share. And so I was very afraid, I was very cautious, I was very insecure, and maybe I didn't look it. Maybe there was also this leadership running through me and making me do very bold things, like leaving everything behind and going to a different country to teach my native language, not knowing anyone there. But in my everyday life, I was still very insecure, and most importantly, no matter how far you go, you're still yourself, and you are constantly reminded of who you are by the people you left behind, who actually need you to pretty much stay the same, so their lives stay also the same in what they find comfortable, even if it's not happy. And so I was disrupting. I was a disruptor in their reality, and I was a pretty insecure person myself, not knowing really what I wanted or who I wanted to be around most of the time. So it was a long path of self-discovery, that's the truth. But I didn't give up. I didn't give up. And even though it was a long road, a long path of self-discovery, and oftentimes it felt lonely, there was always somebody along the way that I could hold on to, and in my pursuit of who I really was and what I was capable of, and most importantly, how to learn to honor my own dreams and my own desires and my purpose in life. And so what I'm here to offer to you is that the moment you start honoring your truth and who you are, not in relation to others, but just in and of itself, who you are, when you start honoring that, and most importantly becoming curious about discovering what that is, what that looks like for you, then things start changing, and they change for the better. So if you ever felt the pull of your own perceptions and you want to honor them and you want to start showing up more as a sensitive leader today, here are 2 steps that you can take. Number 1, name one place that you've been shrinking to try to fit in, and get clear about the fear that you feel, the payoff, why you think shrinking is actually helping you, what's the payoff, and then think of one small action that you can take today to show up differently, to show up more as a sensitive leader, and see what happens. Number 2, a very powerful way to start showing up as a sensitive leader is in the way you speak and your everyday conversations with other people. So I invite you to actually, in any conversations that you may happen to have today with people where you normally show up in a particular way, why don't you challenge yourself to set a more clear boundary, maybe, or to share an opinion that you've been reluctant to share. Do it with kindness, do it with your sensitivity. You don't need to get louder, you don't need to force it, but they're sharing your truth in those interactions and see what happens. You know, that's how we change things in our everyday lives, is only if we dare to take little steps to show up differently.